sponsor, Parati's Quality Meats, located in Cranford, New Jersey, serving customers all over New Jersey for the past 50 years. Welcome to another edition of Coach's Talk, presented by the Shore Football Report. And today we have the Freehold Township head football coach, Coach Corey Davies. Coach, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you very much for having me on, Rob. I was looking forward to it. I know you waited till the very end to put me on. Actually, I had a lot of stuff going on, and it was my fault, but I'm so excited to be here today.
Well, we saved the best for last, right? Can we say that?
Sounds awesome.
Coach, I'm going to brag about all your accomplishments as a 37-year football coach, which is amazing because I only thought you were 32 years old up to this interview, but
far from that.
I'm only kidding. But Coach, you've been great to me through the years when I was at Barnegat, and usually there's, coaches, they have bounce guys. They bounce things off of, it's a college coach or maybe it's another coach in their lives. And you in the pass game, I always loved what you did in the pass game. And you weren't always this spread them out. You used to run the veer back in the day, and you were pretty good at it doing that too. But I really loved your offense, what you did, and you've been really good to me. I want to thank you through the years and always picking your brain and running similar schemes like you did and trying out what you said worked for you and bouncing it back to you. I never forget that one scrimmage we had, Barnegat and Howell. I think it was Howell when you were there. And it was the first half, and we both were throwing the ball like crazy. It was 28-21 in the first half. We came up at halftime to talk about what we were doing in the second half, and you said, I don't know what's going on, but I know the D coordinators ain't going to be happy watching this film. And that was true on my side, I'll tell you right now. But, the stuff that you do offensively in the pass game, we know every year you're going to have a very good quarterback, a very good couple receivers, offensive linemen are very good in the pass pro. When you started going into that offense, what made you change to go into that style?
When I first came here in 1991, I came down to the Shore and I came to Howell, and we were doing veer and a little bit of the pass game. And I decided that the pass game was more to the people that we had. So we started throwing the ball quite a bit in that year, and then a couple of years, and then kind of transitioned over to an option team because of the personnel that we had. And then in 2005, we didn't have much success in a couple of years prior to that. And I said, you know what? I'm going back to throwing the football. And we may throw it every single down because that's the stuff that I kind of like. And then, so in 2005, we went back to it and then had some quite a bit of success at Howell in 2005, 2006, 2007, and so forth on with the offense and even winning a lot of games and so forth. So that's the main reason that I went back to it, just because I kind of wanted to, and we had personnel that could do it.
I loved your philosophy because, Coach, 4th and 1, you felt just as comfortable throwing the football as to other teams running ISO. You really did. You put a lot of stretch on defenses and didn't know how to cover you. And sometimes when you ran the football, it was wide open because they overcompensated for your screen packages that you always were very good at and your vertical pass game and all that. But your quarterbacks always threw for a high completion percentage. Through the years, Coach, it wasn't just 1 year. Through the years, you were high 60, 65%. You take a lot of pride in practice throwing the football, don't you?
Yeah, we do. And we throw it a lot in practice, too. So, when you're talking about your practice scheme or your practice schedule might be 80% we're throwing the ball a lot. The quarterbacks are throwing. We have all the different type of drills and fundamental drills and so forth, throwing the football and catching it. And we want to be up in the 60, 70%.
Yeah.
Not even dropping the ball off and hitting the back in the flat, that's kind of like a sweep to us. If we get 5 yards, that's awesome. Complete the football. So when I gotta tell our quarterbacks when we call pass play, we want the ball thrown and we want it caught. So hopefully that happens.
Yeah, you definitely got that in my head that a swing was just like a sweep and all that stuff. And your screens were really, really high explosive plays that everybody was worried about. It just opened up because teams didn't want to blitz you because if they blitzed you, you're screening them or you're hotting them, throwing those checkdowns, and you're very good at what you did. And like I said before, you were a veer option team in the past, and how you morphed into this says a lot about you. It really does. But whatever you do, you're good at offensively. You really, really are. So let me talk a little bit about where you've been at, Coach, and then I'll let you take the floor. Coach Davies is in his 7th year at Freehold Township. Now, before that, you were at Lacey as the offensive coordinator with Coach Versillo for 3 years. You won a division title in 2012. Your son was a quarterback. right?
He was there a couple of years, my son Connor. Yeah.
So that must have been kind of fun coming back, taking a couple of years off, coming back and coaching your son too, where you live.
Yeah, it was. It was a good situation, but as it always is when you have son on your team, it's like it can be a little difficult,
Yeah.
because you treat him a little bit differently than maybe other guys. You might think your coach is hard on him. Well, you're really hard on him when your son, but you get to do it at home too, even because he comes home with you.
Yep. In 2012, you were 11-1 that year. Very good season. Before that, you were at Howell for 21 years, where most people know you as. So in the same district, I thought it was pretty cool that the district hired you twice in two different spots, which says a lot about you because it's one board of education, right, in Freehold?
Yes, it is. We got 6 high schools there in Freehold, the Freehold Regional, and the opportunity came about when I got out of it with Howell. Decided I didn't want to be a head coach anymore. But then, after 3 years of not being a head coach, I decided, hey, maybe I'll do this again. Because the best part about being a head coach is you're not the head coach. The worst part is that you're not the head coach.
Yes.
Because you have different things. So when the job opened up at Freehold Township, I reached over to them there and interviewed and everything, and I was fortunate enough to get the job.
That says a lot about you, what they thought about you at Howell to get you hired in another school in the same district. 21 years at Howell, 2 division titles, 2009 and 2007. 2007 was a special year because you also won the Group 4 state championship, right? It wasn't Group 5 back then. It was Group 4?
It was 4 back then. Yeah, it was only 4.
The biggest section in Central Jersey, 2007. Coach, what was your record that year when you won the state championship?
11-1. We won 11-1 that year.
Good.
We lost a game. I don't know if it was a 7th or 8th game during the season.
So that was pretty neat, winning a state championship for the Freehold School District. Coach, how exciting was that back then?
Oh, it was very exciting. Now, we thought we were going to have a pretty good team because in 2006, we went to Rutgers and played in the championship game against Southern Central, but came away. We didn't win that game. And then we had a lot of players coming back. Now, the 2006 team had an all-state quarterback, and Sean O'Reilly was an outstanding quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
But in 2007, our state champion, Tim Lamarande, was the quarterback, and he was all-state as well. So he took over just his senior year and did a tremendous. He was outstanding, and one of the main reasons we had a lot of good football players. And actually, our motto for the year was complete the mission. And we knew that we had a good chance to get there. And we actually said if we didn't complete the mission, it was going to be a failure the season. So It wasn't a failure. We actually got there and won it, which was outstanding.
Talk about pressure. Talk about pressure,
yes,
huh?
Well, especially on all of us, the kids.
Yeah.
The kids thought the same thing. We never said that to the kids, but
Right.
They all thought that. Actually, one was quoted in either the press or George Sports Network of saying that.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
We have to get back and win it.
Wow. That's a lot of pressure, Coach, for everybody involved with that.
Well, there's a picture of me with the players with the trophy and
wiping the sweat. Yeah.
And my face looked like, finally get it. So it wasn't a smile or anything like that. It was like, wow, we made it.
I hope you said the next year no more guarantees and bulletin board stuff again, right?
No, none of that.
Yeah. So before your 21 years as a head football coach at Howell, you were at Valley Central High School in New York as a head football coach for 2 years. You went 5-4 both times. You said you enjoyed your stay there in New York. And before that, you were at East Stroudsburg University as a running back and JV head football coach for 2 years. So you have some college experience there, and you started out in Abington High School in PA as a quarterback, running back DBs coach for 2 years. That's where you went to high school, right, in Abington?
Yes, Abington Heights High School and outside of Scranton, Pennsylvania, Clark Summit.
Cool. Coach, that takes us to the process where I love to hear, and everybody loves to hear, how you became the head football coach at Freehold Township. All the stops, who affected you on the way becoming a successful head football coach in a short conference. A lot of people don't know where people started. They just know where they landed right now. I love hearing the whole process. So if you could take us right through your positive stops of becoming a head coach.
You mentioned quite a few of them, or all of them, but in my mind, when I think back, I think at 6 years old, my goal was to be the next Paul Brown and own the Cleveland Browns, and be the coach and the owner. Wow. I used to actually think about that. So I've been involved in football for an awful lot of years, thinking of that way and so forth.
Well, you never know. The Cleveland Browns have not been successful very often. So that job may be open up. So you never know.
I don't think that's not for me now. But when I was 5 years old, I thought it was. But and I've always been a Browns fan. But from there, I went and played high school football at Edmonton Heights High School, and went to Ithaca College. Played there. Was fortunate enough to play some quarterback there, and was captain of the team, and so forth. And I did actually play some years Scranton Eagles minor professional football in from '83 and '85, and I took a year off and get back into '86. But did that while I was coaching at Abington Heights. Then went to East Stroudsburg, which was a great thing to do. I was a graduate assistant, and for 1 year, and another year I was on the staff with that. And then I decided I wanted to try to a little high school because somebody kept saying to me, "You got to go to high school. You'll learn a whole lot more." Because when you're a college coach, all you're doing is coaching running backs.
Mm-hmm.
If you go out in high school, you're going to have to learn all 22 positions and coach special teams more. So I took a position up in New York, which was outstanding for 2 years. Loved it. Came back down here to the shore. Came back then. I shouldn't say I came back down. My wife's originally from the shore. She's originally from Lacey. Actually, was a manager for the Lacey football team when they first started way back in '81 or '82.
Oh wow!
So came down this way because it was an opening at Howell. Got the job at Howell, and as you mentioned, I was there for 21 years and enjoyed all 21, and just kind of got tired of. It was time to retire, I thought. But then the opportunity came up for go to Lacey, so I went there for 3 years, and then I was waiting for a possibility of getting back and being a head coach, and the Freehold Township job opened up, and I took that, and it's been a great stay for 6 years, and now year 7 coming up. Really enjoyed all of the whole process that I went through, and from playing days to coaching days.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are in 2021.
Coach, I think it's amazing that the Freehold School District has numbers. Like wherever you've been, I remember when we played you in scrimmages in Howell, you would only bring 3 buses instead of 4 or 5 because you had 100 and something kids in your program. Why do so many kids want to play football wherever you're at? Why is that?
I don't know that. We just have a lot of kids right now. We're probably at about 80 on the varsity. There's about 38 on the freshmen. So we do have numbers. Some numbers have dropped off because they came out.
Mm-hmm.
So football wasn't for them, but we do have good numbers, and I think a lot of it we try to make it fun for them to play. And football's tough to make to play. Kids sign up to play football, but it's a grind. It's a grind on the coaches, a grind on the players. You're getting up at 7 o'clock, and I was thinking this a couple of weeks ago when it was so hot. We're getting them there at 7 in the morning. They're out there 2-3 hours, and it's getting close to 90 degrees every day, waking up. And then when you start banging, and you get bumps and bruises, and it is a grind. But we try to make it fun for them and try to make it that as best we can, so that the kids want to play and kids will come out. And we try to make it somewhat easy for a lot of guys to be on the team, to keep guys on and so forth, because there's a lot of different reasons why people sign up for football.
Yeah.
A lot of different reasons why they stick it out and play.
That's Coach. I mean, 80 players is a lot. It's not the most you've ever had, but in today where kids are specializing or not playing for this reason or that, that's almost 120 kids in your program is a lot of kids that are that want to play football. That's a credit to you and your staff. It really is.
We really enjoy. I mean, and sometimes it's hard having that many. Sometimes you think to yourself, "I wish I only had 25 guys." It's much easier to coach 25, 80 guys on varsity and 40 on TV. But we want to see as many guys that play football as possible, come out and play and enjoy it, and be able to say 5, 10 years, 15 years from now that they had that experience of playing football, and hopefully it's a meaningful experience for them.
It's funny how you said that because coaches always wish for the other thing. When you have high numbers, I wish I only had 22. When you had 22, I wish I had 100. But there's issues. I mean, it's tough. It's tough to keep 80 guys active in a practice. And I've am talking to you through the years how you kept the kids active and your practice routine for them was remarkable, just because they would come to the bottom line is they're coming to practice, you're doing the right thing, because no kid wants to come to practice sitting on the sidelines and just watching, like they said, 22 kids practicing. So you got a lot of kids. I remember you saying receivers have to catch X amount of footballs in a day. It could be just them playing catch amongst themselves and all that. So you do occupy a lot of the positions with that. So that's great. I mean, wherever you go, there's high numbers. When you were at Lacey, did you have high numbers too, or was it a little bit of a different?
I think the numbers were kind of normal when we were there. Normal numbers. I don't remember them being real high, but they were normal numbers for a high school football team.
Yeah. Now, how many buses would you bring to a game? Did you bring
We usually
everybody?
take four. We would usually take four. Actually, the last couple of years, well, last year, and I'll talk a little bit about that if we talk about
Yeah.
COVID, but
Yeah.
we changed that up a little bit how we did it with COVID because of the numbers and how many guys we took. But we did put a travel at Township. We had a travel list that
Mhm.
we've never had at Howell. We would take everybody at Howell, so we would usually have four buses.
All right, Coach, I'm going to take this mask off. I don't want to talk negative COVID at all. Last year was a tough time for everybody, coaches, players, families. Just tell me something positive that you learned, through the years that you were never ever prepared for with the COVID season. Just something positive you learned.
I think people, when they see about that, a lot of things were different. We didn't practice as long as we normally did. We didn't have as much of a distance in the preseason, even in July, what we call skills and drills, our phase one thing, and doing that. So there was a positive that you don't have to do as much as we think we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a funny thing when you said I coached 21 years at Howell way back when. As a younger guy, I practiced less because that's what I thought. Everybody said 2 hours, 2 hours. Okay, we'll practice 2 hours. But then as you become later on and you're older, you're like, well, we have to do this, we have to do that, we have to fit this in, and you start practicing a little bit more, and you add time into it. And I think what we learned a little bit in that was we don't need as much of that. We don't need that much of time. And the other positive thing, I think our players did a really good job with it. I think not even our players, but even in school with wearing masks and having the mask on and keeping social distance and doing the things we had to do on the buses and so forth. We still took four buses, so we took 48 people to an away game. So that was like the old NCAA numbers
Yeah.
way back. So we took 48 and 12 on a bus. So they were social distance.
Right.
From that standpoint. We're still doing that now. We only took 52 or 53. The NFL's 53, so we did 53. But and they're still spread out. We took four buses the other day to Town River and spread them out. But the biggest thing that the kids kind of were able to do what we had hoped they would do, and what we thought was going to be a huge headache was not.
Coach, it's interesting because you said time. And yes, us coaches, we have to do these certain routine things to lead up to a game. And with COVID, games were canceled 3 days before, 2 days before. What happened with us was my last game was canceled. Asbury Park canceled on us for COVID. So St. John Vianney called us and wanted to play 2 days later. And my coaches didn't want to play. Vianney, this and that, right? And I said, it's my last game. We're playing no matter what. So I remember the coach going, where are we going to play, home or away? I go, we're going to your place. I don't care. I just want to play. And we practiced very little and won. And it proved to me after I retired, like, you don't need all these hours because at the end of the year, the kids know the drills, the kids know the plays, the kids know this. They just want to compete. And sometimes we overcoach. We overcoach. You would have never thought that when we played our game that we didn't practice for a whole week. So kids are very resilient. They really are.
They
So
are. And I had learned that from me in college. We always scaled everything back. Like in college, we might have had a 2 hour practice in the beginning, but by the last game, we were down to an hour practice and everything, not only because of scaling down. Hopefully, you know what you're doing by then. So you've been practicing for 3 or 4 months.
yeah,
You should know, number one. Number two, also back in the day, we didn't have stadium lights or anything like that.
yeah.
So it was getting dark. We had to get off the field. But and we still try to do that. Our practice will scale down by the time we get into November. We'll have a lot less time in our practice. And when we start, we're a late school, so we don't get out of school till 3 o'clock. But when November comes and daylight savings comes or October, whenever it is, we're off the field when it gets dark. It's an hour and a half or whatever
Mm-hmm.
by then. That's all we practice.
Now, do you think after showing that you could practice for only 2 hours last year, did you kind of adjust to it this year? Said, hey, maybe we can kind of cut things short a little bit because it worked?
Not yet, we haven't. Not yet, because I'm still hanging on to that. But actually, Friday's practice, we had a 2 hour practice instead of going a little bit longer.
Good.
Cut it just to give me a rest rather than the players. But as the year goes on, we'll try to see that and see where that will depend on where we're at. Are our players grasping what we have to do? And if they're grasping it, we'll cut back on time because we don't have to practice as much. And unfortunately, sometimes they still don't grasp it, even if we went 7 hours. So, it's something, and I think that's everywhere. I mean, football guys make mistakes. There's no doubt about it. And if you watch the NFL, you see mistakes, and you're like, that guy makes $20 million, and he did that.
Yeah.
As a high school coach, you're like, they blew a coverage. Oh
Yeah.
my! No, so I still think they're gonna make mistakes as well.
The New York Jets make a lot of mistakes, Coach. I'm a big Jet fan, and yeah, so they make a lot of mistakes. Cool, Coach. So you learned a lot through the COVID, and do you think that you're a better coach today than you were yesterday because of the COVID?
It probably helped me a little bit understanding the whole realm of what had to go on with COVID. And I think it's made me a better coach to deal with the possibilities of COVID this year. I mean, because unfortunately for all of us, it isn't going, it didn't go anywhere. It's still here. And, we're still going to be in the same situation. And, my fingers are crossed that we
Yeah.
don't have games canceled. And, we only played 5 games last year. So we lost out because one of our opponents had COVID. We lost out at the end for 2 weeks. We didn't have any games there. So, it makes how we break everything down and hopefully be able to social distance and do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we got to knock on wood because we have to rely on a lot of people doing the right things in order to play a football season this year.
Absolutely.
Okay, Coach, to the left is the 2021 Freehold Township High School football schedule. And then to the right is the newly formed Liberty Division, where clumped a bunch of teams together to form a division, which is not the A North, the B South. It's something different. We'll talk about that when you're done talking about your schedule to the left. Go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, this year with the situation that they gave us the short conference, we got a 7-game schedule. We're going to open up on September 2nd against Middletown North. We're going to travel to Middletown North. That's a game that we had to find. It wasn't given to us, so we searched out and looked out, sent out emails and so forth. And Steve Bush, who I've known since his days in Manalapan, he must have called me. He must have had his email on because it wasn't 10 seconds and the phone rang. And I said, let's go, because I didn't want to not be able to find it. So,
Right.
and he wanted to play at his place. So they said, no problem. So we're going to go against Mid-North, who's outstanding. They're an outstanding football team. We'll find out quickly how good we are. And then on the 10th, on Friday night, we got Freehold Borough, which is the battle for the Duke. It has gone on for years of Freehold Township and Freehold Borough playing for the Duke. So it's a sister school in our district, and it's a game that we, really search for every year to be able to play for the Duke and be able to win that thing. And this year it's at our place, which it hasn't been the last couple of years. So we're happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we start into our conference play or division play, Central Regional, who we haven't played. We played them in 2018. Prior to that, we haven't played them in a while. Then we go to Marlboro, who we've played every year. I've been there, and we may have played them every year for the last 30 years, for all I know. But we travel to Marlboro. And Matawan, who is a new team that we're going to play, is coming in. They'll be playing us there. I think you're missing one. Neptune. Where's Neptune? Neptune comes after Matawan.
Mm-hmm.
So Neptune will come after Matawan. We travel there. It's a Thursday night game over there. We played them a few times since I've been at Township. We played them in 2016, 17, and 18. We played them 3 times. And then on the 15th, we travel to Howell, which is I always refer to them as the school on the other side of Route 9. That's what I used to refer to Township when we used to play Township when I was at Howell. The other school on the other side of Route 9, we used to play Township on Thanksgiving, actually, for a while. So we'll travel over there and play there. And then we get into the short conference pods and see how that works out and, to see what happens with that and how the season goes after that.
Coach, just talk a little. I want to hear about that. You called it the Duke, the Freehold Township, Freehold Borough rivalry game. Is that what you call it?
Yes, the rivalry game. They always played on Thanksgiving way back when.
Okay.
And then the district kind of switched around. And when Colts Neck came in, because they were a smaller school, they had Borough play them, and Township started playing Howell on Thanksgiving. And then they switched them back when Colts Neck got big enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then Colts Neck was going to play Howell and Freehold Borough, and Freehold Township then started playing again, which I think was in 2010. It would have been in 2010 when the first time they started coming back to playing, and they didn't play from 2000 to 2010 because Freehold Borough was playing Colts Neck and Freehold Township was playing Howell. But it's the battle for the Duke. It's a big trophy, and it's been for years, from 1972 up to 1999, and then they started it again in 2010. And it's a thing that we kind of rival on, and it's a big thing between the two schools.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the guys know each other. A lot of them know each other.
Do you guys share the same youth football program, or do you have your separate?
Well, it's very unique. Yes, some of the guys who play in the Freehold Revolution do go to Freehold Borough, mm-hmm. But in our regional district and 9-12 district, we have players from Howell's and from Manalapan and from Freehold. So there's not one that comes to us. So, we have individuals on, if you looked at our mailing addresses for our players, there's Howell, there's Freehold, and there's Manalapan. There's a lot of them in there. So it's not an easy thing when we look at it from that standpoint. So there's not guys that are just playing on one AYF team that come to us.
Awesome, awesome, Coach. Now to the right, the Liberty Division. Bunch of new faces. It's not the A North. It's not the B South. Whatever it is, it's now the Liberty. Us coaches have to get used to the new names of the division before anything. It's always like a trivia. But looking at that, a very, very competitive field of teams. Would you agree with Central, Marlboro, Matawan, Neptune, and of course yourself?
Absolutely. I think they're all competitive. Everybody has a shot to, win games and win the division. As you look at it, it's pretty well put together. I think the Short Conference did a really nice job for us and then other schools into those 4 teams. I think we're very competitive, very equally put together, and it'll be interesting to see how things go. Now, one of us might jump out and be much better than the other. You never know that.
Never.
Every now and then, some team might have 4 or 5 stars that show up that were there, but they just weren't stars the year before, and they become stars and really blossom. But it looks like all 5 of us have very similar type of teams.
All right, now, Coach, I want to hear about the assistant football coaches. You know as well as I do, they make the head football coaches look good. They're the glue to the program. The kids love them. It just makes head football coaches' jobs a lot easier. So let's hear some names from your staff.
Well, we had some turnover the last couple of years because some of the guys who came with me from Howell, and they were, one was older than me, just a little, maybe 5 or maybe 15 years older, but and a couple other ones have resigned out or retired out and going from there. But the first guy is our defensive coordinator, Matt Hardison, who was a township graduated in 05, played some football with the New York Jets. He was on their practice squad for a little bit. He played at University of Rutgers and University of Delaware. So he's our D coordinator, and he's working with the secondary. He works with the offensive line. And as I said, he's a alum of Freehold Township. We're also working with the line is another alum, Alex Matina, who's first year with us. He's come on to help coach us this year and has done a great job with our offensive line so far this year. Vince Tessie also works with the offensive line and the defensive line. Tessie does more with the tight ends. And he came over a long time coach at Colts Neck Monmouth Regional, and he's been with us for the last 3 years. And Alex Matina, he works with the D-line as well. Todd Bitsko, who's been with us now, this was his 4th year with us. He's the receiver and defense and the linebacker coach, and he is also an alum of and none of these alums that I coached, they were before me, but they all came back, which was outstanding that they did that. Todd Smith is new to our staff this year. He's the head baseball coach, and he's been the basketball assistant for years. He's doing a great job working with us, doing the receivers and secondaries, and he's a big depth chart, writing things down guy, which you always need on your staff, who I had lost the last couple of years, that retired from us. And he's really done a great job with that, and also coaching the positions and knowing. It's always great when you have head coaches of other sports with you, because they understand a little bit differently. And at one point I had 4 of them on the staff at Township, but he's really done a great job with that part of it and being able to do that. And then we got 2 more young guys, Shane Laracy, who is an alum as well, is working with our running backs and linebackers, and Anthony Lottie, who will be with the receivers and the defensive backs, who did play for me. He graduated in 2017, played on the 2016 team, was an all-shore safety, was an outstanding football player with the University of Pennsylvania, and he's come back and wants to help coach, and that's awesome that he's there as well. And then down on our freshman, we have Gene Blanco and Jesse Heibel, 2 guys who are head coaches of the sports. Gene was the head coach at Township from 95 to 99, way back when. And those 2 guys do the freshmen, and they're just doing a tremendous job with the freshmen. And they're both in the building, so they're there all the time for them. And to be able to do that. And let me just think if I forgot anybody on the varsity. No, I don't think I did. But and then we have a few other coaches who once were in the program, but those volunteer guys that'll come around now and then, from Derek Reichenbecker, who's our D coordinator for years. He's kind of doing analyst stuff, and he's on Huddle, and Bill Day the same way. My son Ryan, he's doing analyst stuff, and they'll go on and put the stuff in Huddle and do that kind of stuff. Ed Von Nessen, who comes, he's always here. We practice Wednesday nights. He's always there Wednesday nights. He's been with us for the whole 7 years and helps with our linebackers and does a great job. And he was, his a Boston College player back in the day, played with Flutie, actually was good buddies with Flutie. So he comes and helps us with that. And then we also have Mike Verrocchi, who comes around with the D line every now and then, guys who have been around. So we do have some guys, but the main guys that I mentioned that are there all the time are the guys in the beginning and the two with the freshmen, and then the guys that are working with the varsity JV. And we're good with it with those guys coming on because we can split the guys up a little bit, and we have more guys that can coach those younger guys and take them aside. It's okay in fundamentals because you can do fundamental drills and do this and tackling drills. But then when you get to Pascal and then team, those guys have to stand around where we can take them off to the side and they can do their own, the last few, not the beginning of the summertime, but the last few days or this past week, we would go two teams going opposite direction, to be able to get more guys involved. You get at least 44 because you have 11 on defense. So be able to do it that way.
Yeah, I mean, when you have high numbers, you have to also have quality coaches to make sure that you maximize on reps and all that stuff. From because you may be missing a guy when you have a lot of players on a team. There might be some guy or kid that you might not know too much about until a certain reps comes on in a practice, and it may be with the second, third string guys, and then you got to bump them up. So you have a lot of eyes on the kids, which is good. I noticed you have a lot of guys with head coaching experience, but then you also have guys that are alumni. And you kind of perk up when you talk about alumni because they're younger guys. You being a veteran coach, having younger guys on your staff, it keeps things a little bit more loose, I guess, from your end too, right?
It keeps it loose and a little more excitement too, because they get a little excited, they get the enthusiasm going. Where like 30 years ago, I guess I had more enthusiasm than now, but you want the guys to be able to get the guys going, and they relate a little differently. I think I still relate to young people, but relate a little different than some of the other guys do. And being able to do that, and it is pretty neat that there's that many alum that have come back, and some of them, as I said, Anthony Lottie is the only one that played for me. But, Shane Laracy was a couple years before. His brother Pat played for us. He was with us. Todd Vitzko, I had known for years, because we played against him when he was at Township. And Alex Matina was come over, was outstanding. And, Matt Hardison, I knew when he played because we played him in 2004 and 5. He was at Township back then.
Those younger guys bring out the best in us. I know my wife can tell who I'm hanging out with at practice. I come home, the visor's on backwards. Maybe she turns my car radio on. It's got different kind of music on. You drove so-and-so home? How'd you tell? So, we adapt to the people that are with us, but they do keep us young. Let's put it that way. But
yeah, they do. No doubt about it.
But I'll never agree to the kind of music they like. I don't call it music, but whatever.
Well, we just went to a scrimmage the other day, yesterday actually, up in the Montgomery, and the bus driver looked at me because we let him play music on the way up. He's looking at the mirror and said, "Do we have to listen to this the whole time?" And I go, I'll have him shut it down about 10 minutes before we get there.
And it was the younger coaches' music. It wasn't even the players, right?
I don't know what that was. It wasn't 70s on 7 that I listened to.
That's great, Coach. I mean, it is important to have veterans and younger coaches too, because you need both of them to make things work, because you have a lot of different personalities on the football team. Okay, now, Coach, I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about your 2021 Freehold Township football team. Before you do that, just tell us briefly what you run offensively, defensively, and then talk about those players that you were real excited to coach this year.
Yeah, offensively, we've been, since I've been at Township, where people would refer to as an air raid team. We're going to throw the football. We're going to throw it as much as we possibly can. And, we're in a one-back set, sometimes go to 0 or empty set, and we throw the football. And every year we do toy around with putting some more run game in, and we may even do that this year. But, just to kill the clock a little bit. But for a long time, killing the clock for us was throwing a short pass to a running back. The 4-minute offense and so forth. Defensively, we were 4-2-5, and we're going to line up with 4 down linemen.
And draw. I remember the one year you were running draw, and people would watch for it. It still looked like a pass, and you still were getting yards on it. So your draw was.
We did a really nice job with our draw game.
Yeah.
And even, we haven't done it at Township, but the old shuffle pass and things like that also. But, defensively, we're 4-2-5, and have been ever since we got there. We will move around into a 3-man front every now and then, morph into it. We practice it a little bit, but basically our bases are 4-2-5. And the guys that have to get that going when we look at our offensive line, from a varsity standpoint, we're fortunate we have a few guys back that played last year and started. They're nicked up a little bit now, and hopefully we get them back ready to go by the first game. But Zach Cree's going to be back playing offensive center. He played guard last year for us, started a game or two, I think two. Hunter Bernstein was a starter all year. He was a guard. Omar Francis was a starter at tackle. Sean Misi was a starter at guard. So, we have guys coming back. And then Joe Juarez, who was one of our better defensive players last year, was an all-division player, is back, and he's going to play some offense as well. And then Alex Fallon has been working in there. Brendan Kenny working in. And we have a bunch of different guys playing center because our center's hurt. So we've actually scrimmaged yesterday. We're down our number 1 and 2 were both out, and another guy became number 2, Kyle Lucas, who was a running back his freshman year, and now he's playing center. And then the receivers, which might be as important as the quarterback, in that we have Giacomo Calamita back, who did an outstanding job for us last year, was our leader as a receiver. That's coming back, was probably our number 2 receiver a year ago. Sean Corchado, who didn't play last year because he was injured, is playing as a Y or a tight end. And, Nick Benjamino was also rotating in with him because we do this year we are going with a true tight end slot sometimes in practice games, so we'll see how that works and go with that. And Matt Carney is now coming out first year off for football, does a great job as a receiver for us, a tall, lanky kid with great hands. His brother played for us for 4 years, but this is the first year he's came out and played. Anthony Long is a transfer. We came in with an explosive football player. We have him running some routes, running some little screens you were talking about. And we also are putting them in the scrimmages. They said we put wrinkles in when he's in the backfield doing a little wildcat. He can run and throw. So we'll see how that works out. Ryan Jackson is our returning quarterback, played 1 game last year that he started. Got hurt in the game, broke his leg, or had a fracture in his leg. And during the game, or some people say it was the JV game before, we don't know. But he did a great job when we beat Marlboro that day. It was funny. It's his first game we were playing on the headsets. We were like, he just threw 35 passes in the first half. That's not the way to break a guy in. We looked at it, was 31 actually. And he ended up throwing 41 in the game. But we loosened him up and threw a little bit. And then we have a nice young sophomore, Mark Agello, who's doing a really nice job for us. And we'll see how he goes through the years and get how much progress he makes. We do have some hard running backs right now that are running hard. Evan Olson, who's a senior, Jaden Morales, who played defense, both of them last year. Ryder Anagos is in there, Quincy Moore. So we do have some guys that are pretty good runners that are helping us. And one of the reasons we may morph into running the football maybe a little more than we had. So it's hard for me because when I want to call plays, I want to throw pass plays. So hopefully those guys all on offense can gel and we can be a offense that can move the football, get first downs and do those kind of things, and also make some big plays. Which our scrimmages, we made some big plays, some big long throws downfield, and some screens as well. But we'll see how that happens when teams can really scout us and so forth. On the defensive side, a lot of guys are playing on both sides of the ball. I mentioned Joe Juarez and Omar Francis and Sean Misi and Zach Krieg and Alex Fallon and Quincy Moore. Those guys are playing on the defensive line, and we have a couple of young guys that might jump in there and be able to play as well on that. DMB is a guy we have on our team. When I say DMB, it's let me try to remember, David Marone Boswell, and he's playing on the D line. Also, he's playing a lot on the offensive line as well, which I did mention before. He's a junior that's playing. And then being a 4-2-5, we get into our linebackers spotting that we have basically, we call it a 4-2-5, but it's really the old-fashioned 4-4, but we do something different. Yeah. Our linebackers are Devin Olson, Baden Morales, who I mentioned, Sean Corchado, Nick Benjamino, Evan Kessler, and Sebastian Nandahar, who's a young sophomore who's really been impressive as an outside linebacker and as a running back. He'll probably see some time before the year's over running the football. In the backfield, Giacomo Calamita and Anthony Long are the 2 corners right now, with Aiden Greenberg's in there as well, and Philip DeRita. At safety, Anthony Pontecorvo played a couple games last year, and started a game at safety. Ryder Anagos is playing safety, and then we have another sophomore that's really looking good, Nick Arnaval, he's been playing some X for us and getting in there and playing receiver, and he's playing safety, and he's a guy that's going to be on the field in varsity games. There's no doubt about it.
Wow, that's a lot of good names, Coach, and you seem excited for the season. I'm excited for you guys too, as all you head football coaches head into a, knock on wood, hopefully a successful, healthy football season. Going into your this would be your 38th year, right? This is your
Yes, 38 years coaching football. As I said earlier, I was at Abington Heights, my alma mater, for 2, and then I stopped coaching for 2 years because of a job commitment that I had. I wasn't teaching at the time, but at that time, way back then, I was doing highway construction, and the money was way too good. It wasn't going to be around in that area because we were all over the state of Pennsylvania making concrete barriers and stuff like that. And it was a great job that I had, and it was paying a lot of money. But then I wanted to get back into coaching, had the opportunity to go up to East Stroudsburg University.
I'm asking you this question because when I stepped down, I had to do a lot of reflecting. Going into your 38th year, I mean, and you look back at your career, is this where you wanted to be? Or do you still have a lot more goals still way ahead right now? Because you have, I mean, a Hall of Fame career right now, and you still got so much energy going forward. Is every year a challenge, or you still have more goals out there?
It's funny you say that because when I got the job at Freehold Township, the principal in the second interview said to me, she said, I want you to guarantee 5 years. Can you guarantee me 5 years? And there was 4 other people in there, the speaker, AD, and other assistant principals. And I said, yeah, because I think it's going to take me more than 5 years to accomplish what I really want to accomplish here at Freehold Township. So we're going on year 7. Yeah. I'm still here, but I kid around all the time and say, I'm going to retire after this. The kids say, I'm not coming back. And I said it the other day, and one of them said, you've said that for 3 years. So you'll be back. But, we're not really done yet. And the funny part about it is in that room, those 5 people, including me, I'm the only one that's still there. Everybody else is out of the building. They went to another building, transferred, or retired. But it's something you don't know how about it. I love coaching football and being around it, absolutely. But then there's those days that I just go like, oh man, why am I doing this? Why am I getting up at 4:30 and driving up to Freehold Township, out there and so forth? But I love coaching football. I love being around the kids and the camaraderie and joking around. That's one thing we missed a lot last year, I thought, because they couldn't come in the locker room because of COVID. We didn't bring them in the locker room. We couldn't really talk to them. A lot of them weren't in school, so you didn't see them in school. Which is right now we're not letting our guys in the locker room currently. When September starts, we will. When school starts, because they have to. I mean, they got to put their stuff in there because they're going to go to school at 3:00. But it's still the same. You see them afterwards and walk around with them a little bit on the field to see them. But that was something that that's a part that you really enjoy. Dealing with kids and hanging out with them and talking to them and messing with them a little bit every now and then. And, so that's the part that really the camaraderie of it that really makes it the camaraderie with the coaches and the players.
Now, Coach, we talked about this a while ago. When you first started, I think it was 1991, the landscaping of Shore Conference coaches has changed, right? I mean, just you and Coach Versillo, there's no other coach that was around in 1991 in the Shore Conference that's coaching, right?
They were head coaches. I know Mark Cosentino came in 92.
Yeah, 92.
That's sure, but yes, you're right. I mean, the guys that were head coaches back then, Coach Versillo and myself, are the only ones that are left that are still head coaches in the Shore at that time. And I did take I had to stay when I went with Coach Versillo down at Lacey for 3 years. But yeah, you're right. It's changed. A lot of younger coaches coming in for the better and for the worse. Who knows? It depends on who looks at it.
Yeah.
But it's been changing, that's for sure.
An awful lot. And you've been that father figure for a lot of younger coaches. I mean, I like to think I was younger, but I'm not younger anymore. But all the newer coaches that come in look to bounce things off of you, from a coaches association, because you've been there, done it, and you are that continuous person that's always in the same spot, the same area. And that's important, I think, for not only players, but for coaches, knowing that we have guys like yourself, Coach Versillo, Kaz, Chuck Donahue has come back from the South. All you guys are very, very important to the Coaches Association. So thank you. I mean, for everything you've done and keep doing. And I still think you're one of those young coaches. I mean, all your techniques and your schemes are more modern, and you have your own different little things in there. You're not an old school type of schematic coach. And I always thought you were 35 years old. So I didn't realize you were.
Yeah, I wish. I've had AARP things sent to my house for a while now.
Yeah, but I mean
that mail, and I'll have to decide, do I want to take Social Security pretty soon?
Yeah.
Certain.
But with all the changes going on, I mean, the average life expectancy for a head football coach, I think somebody told me was like 4 years. People do it as a bucket list, and you're a lifer. You've been doing it for your life. Says a lot about you. And you, like you said, you see a lot of people come and go for the better, or for the worse. And you're still standing, and you're on top right now with high expectations in the Liberty division. You're living a dream.
Absolutely. I wouldn't disagree with you. As I said, at 5 years old, I thought I was going to be the owner and the coach of the Browns, but I guess I'm the coach and the owner of Freehold Township Patriots. Yeah. You make wherever you are, it was the big time. So
yeah,
Freehold Township is the big time for me right now.
Well, Coach, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It was a pleasure. And I know you have a busy schedule, you guys, as you're getting ready for the season in 2 weeks. I think it starts 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, we have one more week, and then after that, we start September 2nd.
Goes by so quick. It really does.
Yes, it does. And as you get older, as you keep saying that I'm old, as you get older, it seems to go even faster. Like when you come home at 6:30.
Well, call a timeout. Call a timeout.
Again, ready to go to sleep. But one thing for you, Rob, this is outstanding what you're doing. It's great stuff for high school football on the shore. And it's just outstanding things that you're doing and putting up a lot of good stuff. And I really enjoy it. And watching some of the other things that you put up. And people don't know.
No parent complaints.
Oh, that's good.
Absolutely none. I'm undefeated in coaches talks. So,
and you've taken over as president of the Shore Conference Coaches Association, which
that's because you guys all took 2 steps back. That's the only reason.
I think it was 1997. I was the president. I think I was the second or third president way back when, but I think it was the second one. But that was a long time ago. But you're doing a tremendous job with that and with this, and I'm thankful for it. And I think everybody who's following Shore football.
We're going to have a lot of fun covering Shore Conference football, and of course your program too, Coach. So I'll let you go. I'll let you get ready because your first game is ticking real close. I appreciate it. And if you ever need anything, go to shorefootballreport.com, and I'll have everything up there for your players and the coaches out there.
Forget that. I'm just texting you or calling you. I'm not looking on that.
Yes.
I did look for a Hawaiian shirt, but I couldn't find one. So I wore a Freehold Township.
I think I have everyone in my closet right here.
You might have everyone in New Jersey.
I do. It's funny because I went to Ocean City, Maryland, with my wife for a couple of days, and everything's normal down there. Like there's no such thing as COVID. Me, I have to wear my my glasses because I got cataract surgery. I wore my mask and my Hawaiian shirt, and they're laughing at me. And I told my wife, I said, they're laughing at me for the mask. She goes, the mask? You're the only one wearing a Hawaiian shirt here. You look like a fool, right? So whatever. There's a lot of things to laugh at me for, but whatever. Having fun, Coach. And, best of luck to you. And if you need anything, let me know.
I shall.